Act Against Ageism is a production of Observatory on Aging and Society. This presentation has been made with the support of the Canadian government according to his New Horizon program for elders.
Hello, my name is Yvon Riendeau. I'm a social gerontologist and I have a master's in gerontology. I'm also a trainer and a speaker across Quebec in residences in volunteer action centers and community organizations and other elderly associations. I work for some Alzheimer's Society and other organizations. So today the subject is ageism. Ageism in 2024 is something very important because more and more we talk about ageism. So in a short period of time, I'm going to try to make some kind of summary and a view for tomorrow about ageism. You know, I'm going to try to summarize the main things that we have to say about ageism. Maybe the first thing to say is that the birth of the concept of ageism as a scientific preoccupation brings us back to 1969 with a certain Robert Neil Butler, doctor, psychiatrist, and gerontologist. And at that time, he was with the National Institute of Aging. But ageism, we could say that it started in the genesis to the social perception of the past 55, 60 years and more. In 2024, we have to take in consideration that we're living in a graying context of the population, of course. And just to make that first point very important, around 2031, we are going to have around 100 youngsters less than 20 years old for 154 citizens more than 65 years old. So it's interesting to see, we say that it's an inverse pyramid that's happening here in Quebec. Some definitions accepted by the scientific community are interesting to bring up. So we would say in the first definition that ageism would be some kind of profound discomfort, by youth and middle-aged people and adults, of course, and elders too, to be around elders. So a negative resentment and a personal disgust towards aging, and towards sickness too and infirmity. Plus the fear, even some kind of phobia towards incapacity or uselessness and of dying at the end, We could say that ageism is some kind of stigmatization and discrimination according to age, plus a possible sexism, plus a possible racism and discrimination towards sexual orientation. As a society, some people are even saying that it's scary in 2024. And it's very dangerous to recognize only the loss of elders, aging people, without the gains, So it's very, very important to notice that particular thing. We caricature, in a way, the elders, and some would say that the sense of respect has been lost in our actual societies. And the perception, when it's negative, it says it all, We could always add that ageism is a free and easy generalization and an unfavorable harm towards citizens' rights and liberties, of course. So it has to be unmasked in 2024. Ageism basically is a social construction, often subtle and sometimes very sneaky. And it's a form of segregation related to age, systematic stereotypes, like we would say intellectual shortcuts, against aging people because they are aging, so-called old. So the words are important, the attitudes are important, and the definitions, are very strongly important in 2024. Even some people are treating people aging like seniles. They use that kind of vocabulary. But senile meaning not Alzheimer's disease, not Parkinson's disease or other cognitive problems. But it means, or its meaning, the meaning is they're slow, they're ineffective. They use, that proper word to say dangerous drivers and unfit citizens, So it's kind of heavy on the shoulders of aging people if they hear those comments or if they feel those comments, sometimes we're going to hear words or expressions like, well, he is a has-been person living somewhere in time. And often, I don't know if you don't like this one, but dear, my dear, dear, and my dear, sometimes it's not properly, how should I put it, decoded by people because they feel like reduced. It's reducing with reduced words, you know. Ageism is present in different forms. That's one thing we have to agree. And it's sly, often invisible. Not all the time, but often invisible. But one thing is for sure, it hurts. And it's often made in silence. So all those attitudes, rejection, as a matter of fact, all those gestures like impatience. Some examples we could throw this today, pressuring an elder person, an old person for the legacy, you know, to pressure for having the heritage before the death of the person while the person is alive, you know. So, or the cottage, putting pressure to change the name of the cottage to make sure, you know, that we're going to have that asset. Referring to sexual performances, decreasing of libido. People are laughing, you know, at the elders because some of them, they have more difficulties with the human sexual response, as a matter of fact, or the sex drive, you know, can be changed. And all those remarks on garment, on jewels, furniture in the house, you know, saying that, well, this is old, this is not good, this is in your time. So people understand, people, of course, they hear what is said and what is done. With ageism, we have to introduce the concept of belittle. So belittle the elders in a, of course, pejorative way. Use, you know, people, you know, they use people. They're like has-been people, as we said earlier, ineffective people. And, you know, all of those things, they bring the perception and the believing of an automatic decline. Even we can go on to decrepitude, as we say in French and in English, the same kind of word, weakness, you know, weakness. So, of course, all this social exclusion can be the consequences of ageism. It is a trap, I think, and maybe you're going to agree with me, it is a trap that we need to denounce in 2024. And ageism can be seen, can be present in the intergenerational and intra-generational in 2024. So all of the generations, you have 6 generations that mingle in 2024, and all the generations can feel or put as a project, of course, the ageism, or just consciously or unconsciously. One thing is for sure, we need to agree on one fact. There's around 2 million citizens that have reached the age of 65 years old and more out of the 9 million of population in Quebec. So the visibility is a word very strong and very important. What we could call cohabitation of the generations is very important in the public space, you know, and at work, of course. We need to transfer the skills. We need to share the experience and not have a vertical attitude between citizens. Of course, the elders can, for any reason, be very damaged with ageism. And there's a new social contract that is just now happening with all the visibility. Of course, we're even talking about a boom of elders between 2010 and 2016. Roughly, I would say. So a new age of cohabitation is very, very important. We need to see how society is going to react and treat the elders, you know. Same thing with the youngsters, you would tell me. But today, the thing is, the topic is ageism, of course. You know, sometimes comments at the grocery store, either by employees or by other people that are doing the grocery, in the bus, a lot of visibility, subways, even when we go spectacles shows, you know, there's more and more presence of elder people because society is aging. Quebec is no exception, as we could say. Quebec and Japan are the two places, you know, where aging is very present. So we used to talk about gray power in the 90s, I remember that, and now we're talking about aging and rights and liberty. So there's different types of aging, as you might know, every one of you, voluntarily or involuntary, consciously or unconsciously. We can, you know, just put some words, attitudes that are, of course, defined as aging. So, and we could ask ourselves, like, sexism and racism is aging tolerate, in Quebec, in a way. And sometimes we have to take for granted that the decisions, let's give that a small example. It's Christmas time, and the children of the elder person are deciding of everywhere. No pies, no dessert, no nothing. We're going with a potluck, and sometimes elders feel sad because the traditional aspect of Christmas is put aside. Same thing with Easter, as an example. Okay, so ageism is a contempt, of course, and free comment towards all old people. So that generalization is very dangerous, if I can say that word, And even we see that sometimes in nursing homes or in residence, between the new residents and the long-time residents. Sometimes, the chemical is not that good, or the comments are not that polite. Bashing exists everywhere, and sometimes, some people maybe they should, be careful on what kind of comments that they give. We could give other examples, like, people who freshly retired, who are in retirement, and, they meet at the golf club or at the restaurant, places like that, and jokes are made, on the utilization of a walker or on weight, jokes are made about the car driving or Monty. So, it's not cool. It's not interesting. Actually, maybe you'll agree with that. It's not polite. But, unconsciously or involuntarily, ageism is spreading. So we need to talk about it. We need to have a plan, a social plan about ageism, individuals and collectively. We need to ask ourselves, is that a topic to be properly analyzed? And I think the answer is in the question. Comments like, well, it's normal at that age, to use a walker. She wears a diaper. I'm sorry to say the word, it's not a diaper. It's, a facility for incontinence, but still. He has Alzheimer or Parkinson's disease because he's losing his key, or he's losing memories, things like that. So, the line is not very thick between a joke and ageism, if I can put it this way. He's losing it, things like that. We're going to hear some comments of that category. Laughing at slowness when walking, that person should be moved in a nursing home. It's not a case for here, things like that. So, comments, words, of course, attitudes again, impatience, aggressivity, infantilization, discomfort, fear of becoming the same way. So we could call that projection. And some people, they are very severe and towards elders because they don't want to be what they see, on the autonomy, physical or cognitively about the autonomy. The imposition, humiliation, forbidden of the expression. So the person, has nothing to say on the decisions or what happens to her, things like that. So, control of the assets, those are things that sometimes it's invisible, or sometimes people think it's okay. What is she going to do with that car anyway? What is he going to do with that amount in the bank anyway? So you see that it's sometimes very subtle, but it's always, damageable for the elders, of course. Demonstrations of ageism at work, we have a lot of examples, of course, but still not hiring a person, or not giving a promotion to a person because, she's much more close to ending work than to start work. So, all those things can be very damageable for a lot of people. Not hiring a person over 65 because she might not be in the industry or elsewhere for a long period. Ignoring the capacity of the person, make her feel like too much, unlike. And subtitle jokes on the idea of leaving that work area, work file, make space for the young, mock on menopause. We see sometimes that ageism can be sexualized, meaning that mock on menopause, hot flashes, mood swings, and those words, those attitudes are very damage, of course, for elders because it's not interesting, and it's, of course, it reduces that person, of course, humiliation is there. Systematic ageism as an abuse, because now we say, of course, that ageism is one form of abuse, you know, and in our society we need to be careful because ageism can bring intimidation, and intimidation is criminal. It's Article 423 of the Criminal Code. So, you know, the line again is not very thick, and the line might be, you know, not easy to draw. But possible to do in some organizations, for example, in some nursing homes. I'll be polite here, but still imposition, verticality, mothering. We see, you know, sometimes mothering being seen in some places. More or less respect of the rights, like what we call empowerment, you know, and all the rights and the capacities of taking decisions and to take power, you know, over ourselves. So, you know, again, it's a how should I put it? It's a situation that giving caring might be rigid in some facilities or inflexible. And what can we add? But what's the social perception of elders? You know, sometimes we need to meet the employees or meet, you know, people at work and just be sure that, you know, they're not using ageism as a way of communication. Family intimidation for the lure of profits, take over with a vertical position. Other examples, shortly, unbalance of the power between the parents and the children. You know, sometimes parents become children and children become parents. You know, they inverse the roles. So we talked about it, you know, grandmother, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad. We talked about things, the children among us, and we decided for your right, you know, we decided for your good that this is what's going to happen. So, you know, it's very sometimes subtle, but still. To add another element here is the medias and aging. Shortly, but the medias and aging, the impact on social perception is might be very strong. The television as the collective the collective imagination can damage a lot because unconsciously, when presenting more or less loss of autonomy, let's say in televisions and even in papers, if we put the emphasis on sickness, comorbidity, medical assistance, like in dying, major cognitive disorders, it gives, you know, a lecture pessimist. It nourishes pessimist vision of aging and pathologies, and in aging, of course. So that brings fear and negativity, and sometimes the unconsciously and the imagination of other citizens. Economic weight, when we talk about elders and we do the free association about economic weight, cost in nursing home, burden, etc. You know, all those things, of course, sometimes we need to point them out, of course, but sometimes they can be very subtle. So, but at the same time, we have television, papers, and magazines, you know, who present like not even nursing homes, but residences for elders, like 5 stars resort, you know, all included, of course, five stars of resort, you know, like some kind of paradise of aging. So, of course, there's a possible here pressure from the family to go live in security at the residence that offer many activities, you know, to the residents. Like so the perception might be in 2 ways. So if we see pictures of elders with the scooter, you know, and the spa and the snowbirds, and we say now Punta Canada, you know, more and more people are going to those countries. So if we picture them with richness, house paid, no debts, no mortgage, that's another dimension of the perception of aging. So it's like a double stigma, we would say, a double standard about aging in our societies. But still, the perception of aging is what we call in gerontology a variable geometry in 2024. In 2024, sorry. Aging well or not, you know, there's always that dichotomy over a head. So you turn 90, clap, clap. You turn 100, clap, clap. But what is the quality of life over 90, over 100, you know? So it's very interesting to see the social perception. Geron technology is among us, with all those new platforms, Zoom, Teams, FaceTime is, more and more used since the pandemic, and the text, choosing within the options. For some people, click health, go on my files. It might be hard. The code QR and all those things. For some people, scanning a document might be difficult, so they need to learn. And some people, they discriminate them because they sometimes don't have the abilities, and we see that even on the phone, when some people talk about when in social services or in government facilities. For some people, even the bank transfer or a cell phone might be difficult. So, of course, we can learn at every age, but some people are going to take for granted that because the elder person has difficulties with this or this topic, that she's inferior, or that it makes the ageism take more space. Multiple stress, that's one thing we need to point out. Anxiety, depression can be an impact. Suicidal ideas can also be something that we're going to notice if we pay attention, So we need to denounce ageism, that's for sure. And in a conclusion, maybe 2 or 3 examples. Leaving work, that's another impact of ageism. Leaving work for the wrong reasons, or self-exclusion of work, not expressing gay or lesbian or sexual orientation. That's more and more common. Being afraid, in a residence, feeling that some kind of gerontophobia or homophobia or even transphobia. Feeling to be decreased, useless, incompetent, reduced to silence. So feeling that they deserve the words. I want to just point out in a couple of seconds, when a person feels that she deserves, the attitudes, the words, and the way that we are treating her, this is very damageable, This is very, very damageable for the self-esteem and all the other aspects of the personality. So if we think that we are old and out of circuit, this is very damageable again. So it can bring what we call self-ageism. It can bring the internalization of ageism, and of course some very big impact that is very to take seriously. Some people won't leave their apartment no more, won't leave their room no more, won't leave their house no more. Some people are even are stopping to have communication with their family, members of their family and relatives, friends and neighbors. So this is very damageable. This is very, very bad. And to maybe finish this presentation in a minute or two, living aging in fear, though. So this is that's not the way we should age, in a way, with aging with sadness, with anger, with frustration. So the impact is very, very, very important. So do we have some kind of vision for the future in Quebec? We might say on planet Earth. So do we need to reevaluate things? Do we need to have a reevaluation of taking stock of the optimal cohabitation between generations? In my opinion, as a person and as a social gerontologist, I think we need to look very carefully about the cohabitation of those 6 generations, Learning to say no. I think that some individuals, some people, they need to learn to say no at the restaurant or elsewhere, at the grocery store, as we said earlier, at the garage, because of the words or the attitude that they're not supposed to be a victim of. I don't deserve that attitude, that tone. Some people need to step, and to put their feet at the right place to say, okay, I don't want it to happen no more. Do we need in our society to promote anti-ageism, to re-evaluate even the mission of gerontology and geriatrics? Do we need to promote the positive image of aging and, of course, old age? And do we need to measure the attitude? The answer is yes, and the beliefs towards, having a good old age. Being watchful with the utilization of the social norm and to reevaluate that norm exactly that might be disrespectful for aging people. So do we need to be careful when we use the successful aging? I think that's another social contract that we have, and we need to, of course, to deconstruct in a way the unfavorable myths and construct society with a positive regard towards elders. So, of course, to share the social space with inclusion and not exclusion. And to conclude, talking about ageism and aging is very important. We need to picture aging as transitions. That's an important word. Transition, passages and growth, to promote a tolerant society without ageism, of course, or intimidation, and of course, without elder abuse, racism, and sexism and homophobia. So we need to evaluate and evaluate the experience and the skills of a lot of workers that want to maintain, work and their place at work. Even the governments are more and more trying to, make people stay longer at work, as you already know. So, and some of them, they're doing mentoring. We need to educate the youngsters, the youth. We need to educate, re-educate adults and even elders and staff, from everywhere to respect, tolerate, and to more go on kindness. Use kindness and well-treatment to elders. And the last sentence that I'm going to tell you is the recognition, the importance of the recognition and the contribution of the senior citizens to the richness of Quebec. So I think we have a lot to do. We have a lot to think about, and I'm wishing yourself the best to continue to talk about ageism, reduce it, and all the other things that are damageable for elders. So if you allow me, I will just conclude with saying thank you very much for your attention. So have a great day, and thank you very much.